On the 26th of September 2022, the Center for Politics, Leadership and Governance, CPLG, presents The Bold Transition themed Demystifying Politics and Governance in Nigeria. The keynote speaker is the Vice Presidential Candidate Labour Party, Nigeria, Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed. Other speakers in attendance are Dr. Alex Otti, Professor Attahiru Jega, Kelvin Ogbonnaya Maximus, Prince Reuben, Beatrice Itubo, Honorable Dienye W. Pepple, amongst others. Honorable Dienye Pepple, the Labour Party chairman, River State, said that through this conference, people will know what will be done to resurrect the failed political system in Nigeria.
My name is Dienye Pepple. I'm the state chairman of Labour Party in River State. Yes, of course, like the team says, demystifying politics and governance. The truth is, politicians tend to middle the two words together, politics and governance. They are two different words, though they are correlated. So we want to demystify that so that people really understand the difference between politics and governance, so that politicians will not be playing politics while they are supposed to be governing. And that is why we are here today. Number one, we are going to differentiate politics from governance. Number two, we're also going to differentiate, we're going to achieve to know what a true government is supposed to do. In Nigeria today, the system has failed. That's the truth. It has failed. And we want to see how to make our own input to let the world know that this is where the system has failed. And this is what is to be done to resurrect the system. And that is one of the take-backs we will get from this conference today. It's going to be interactive, it's going to be educative, and it's going to be empowering. Thank you very much.
The vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Yusuf Datti Ahmed, said that governorship should be about righteousness. He also said that socio-political development has not moved alongside economic development, and that this is what the Labour Party is about to bring.
Politics is about interest. Governance should be about righteousness. The Fourth Republic has been dominated by political successes, political indices like what I've mentioned to you. Socio-economic indices have not moved progressively with our political development. This is what Labour Party and the obedient movement is going to change under the candidacy of His Excellency Governor Peter Obi and my humble efforts. In a nutshell, what we're trying to say is that we must match every political development with positive socio-economic impact in the life of the people. We must feel it with time. We must feel more secured. Our naira must be protected. Our economy must be improving. And I think it's not too much to ask. In summary, this is what the obedient movement is about. My brother, I treat every Nigerian as a Nigerian. Right now, the way I've adopted my attitude, I'm blind to Northern Christian, Northern Muslim, Northern Nigerian, Southern Nigerian. I'm sorry to say, please, I cannot succumb to that kind of politics anymore. I cannot fail to preach what I cannot fail to practice what I'm preaching. You're a Nigerian, that's all I need to know. If I'm giving advice, the same one I'm giving to a Northern Christian is the same one I'll give to a Southern Christian. And the same advice I'll give to North and South Christian is the same one I'll give to Muslims. We're Nigerians suffering from bad insecurity, extreme terror and banditry, nearly a completely failed economy, and the worst corruption in our history. So I'm not going to divide us using any yardstick. We are Nigerians, we're united.
Consumption to production, cultivating the large expanse of fertile land in the north, revitalization of the industries in the southern Nigeria, expansion of infrastructure, provision of credit, genuine credit to deserving business people, reforms of the public system to avoid bureaucracy and corruption towards business, and above all, education, education, education.
Well, that was a good one, sir. On behalf of the Labour Party in Rivers State, we want to appreciate you, especially I'm the state chairman of the party, the Pepple is my name. Thank you so much for being online with us. We appreciate you. May God give you more grace to carry out this cause. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. It's really a pleasure being here with you. I wish I could be able to spend more time, and I hope to meet you very soon again.
Well, the boldness are in two phases. The phase one is how we are able to go and wrestle this power out of these cartels and cabals who have kept this country where we are. Then the second one is the boldness in the face of putting in place new policies that will ensure that we have a shift from what it used to be to what it ought to be, so that people can begin to enjoy dividends of good governance. So in the face of these two, I think we are saying that the first one, we are prepared for the two. The first, that is exactly why we are coming out the way we are coming out. And luckily, the populace are on the side of this positive change. And so you can see that change that is not people driven, cannot go anywhere. But this one is people driven, therefore we can go far. And by the grace of God, come May 2023, Labour Party will take over the leadership of this country. And then on the side of being bold as to put in place policies that will engender good governance, I can assure you that Labour Party is very ready. You can hear our presidential candidate tell you that he wants to turn Nigeria from a consumption economy to a production economy. And here in the state also, of course, you know my antecedents. I'm not somebody who will shy away in the face of certain challenges. And so we'll be there to put in place these bold policies. Whether it means stepping on people's toes, we will step on people's toes to put in place bold policies that will ensure that there's good governance and people will begin to enjoy the dividends of democracy.
Mrs. Beatrice Itubo, the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party, Rivers State, said that I am not that person who will shy away in the face of certain challenges. We will be there to put in place bold policies, whether it means stepping on people's toes.
Well, the boldness are in two phases. The phase one is how we are able to go and wrestle this power out of these cartels and cabals who have kept this country where we are. Then the second one is the boldness in the face of putting in place new policies that will ensure that we have a shift from what it used to be to what it ought to be, so that people can begin to enjoy dividends of good governance. So in the face of these two, I think we are saying that the first one, we are prepared for the two. The first, that is exactly why we are coming out the way we are coming out. And luckily, the populace are on the side of this positive change. And so you can see that change that is not people driven, cannot go anywhere. But this one is people driven, therefore we can go far. And by the grace of God, come May 2023, Labour Party will take over the leadership of this country. And then on the side of being bold as to put in place policies that will engender good governance, I can assure you that Labour Party is very ready. You can hear our presidential candidate tell you that he wants to turn Nigeria from a consumption economy to a production economy. And here in the state also, of course, you know my antecedents. I'm not somebody who will shy away in the face of certain challenges. And so we'll be there to put in place these bold policies. Whether it means stepping on people's toes, we will step on people's toes to put in place bold policies that will ensure that there's good governance and people will begin to enjoy the dividends of democracy.
Also, the former INEC chairman, Professor Attahiru Jega, said that it is very clear that the potential Nigeria has for greatness has been so terribly undermined by our governing classes, and Nigeria is rarely a banana republic.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate the invitation to participate in this discussion. And I want to begin my comments by observing that for a very long time globally, there has been a recognition that Nigeria has the potential to be a great nation. If you look at the demographics, people have explained that for every 4 Africans, 1 is a Nigerian, and for every 5 Black people in the world, 1 is a Nigerian. So demography and population favor us. But beyond that, our country is also very, very rich for human and material resources. So the potential has been there for Nigeria to be a great nation. Unfortunately and regrettably, our ruling and governing classes have over time squandered wonderful opportunities to tap into the potentials and to convert that potential into a great nation. And things have become so bad that contemporarily, due to a nasty combination of selfishness, greed, short-sightedness, and recklessness in governance by our ruling elite, they have turned Nigeria almost into a banana republic. And the evidence is there. If you look at the indices of growth and development, you'll find that Nigeria ranks very lowly. We are dubbed as the poverty capital of the world. We are now characterized as the 2nd most insecure nation. Our Human Development Index, which is used by the UNDP to measure the physical quality of life of people in any country comparatively, is very, very low. It's one of the worst, in fact, in the world. And of course, corruption is also very, very high. And Nigeria has one of the highest rankings of corruption in terms of the Corruption Perception Index by Transparency International. Just today, I read something in the newspapers which says that Nigeria is going bankrupt, according to the Minister of Finance, because according to her, Nigeria is now so broke that the debt exceeds the revenue that come into government coffers. All of these challenges, of course, it is very, very clear that the potential that Nigeria has for greatness has been so terribly undermined by our governing classes that Nigeria now really is like a banana republic. Now, if there is even a global index for measuring or ranking leadership in the world, I haven't seen anyone, any yet. But if there is a governance for even ranking leadership in the world, I'm sure Nigeria will be ranked very much at the bottom. And I think what has happened is that between 1999 to date, progressively, leadership has grown or become from bad to worse. And there is terrible bad governance in our country, and that explains why the resources that we have are not being put to good use in order to address the fundamental needs and the aspirations of our citizens. So leadership has gotten from bad to worse, and Nigeria is now characterized by what I call poorly recruited or so-called elected leaders. Electoral politics and leadership recruitment have virtually become the exclusive preserve of very few who use a criteria for selection, which is dominated and influenced by about 3 things. 1, this criteria for leadership selection is dominated by use of money, often stolen money, is characterized by patron-client relationship. We have what are called godfathers and money bags and the ethnic and religious warlords, and they have an intricate patron-client relationship with candidates. So whoever who wants to be a candidate either has to have money or either has to have or either have to enter into a patron-client relations with a godfather, with a money bag, or with an ethnic or religious warlord. And of course, the combination of all of this undermines the integrity of the electoral process and therefore results in the selection or so-called election of very, very bad leaders. Now, these so-called elected bad leaders now occupy governance processes and the institutions throughout the country, whether at the federal or at the state or at the local level. And of course, they now vandalize state resources. They erode the capacity of the state to address the fundamental needs and aspirations of the people. And in general, they have contributed to really even leading this country astray. Because clearly what we see is that the use of religion, ethnicity, regionalism, and so on, the way they are being mobilized, they are very likely to dismember this country unless citizens and patriots work together and join hands to change the leadership selection criteria to ensure that good people come into governance so that they can provide good governance, which can then address the needs and the aspirations of our people. So basically, what I'm saying is that Nigeria has a potential to be a great nation, but that potential has been eroded and destroyed over time by very selfish, very reckless, very corrupt, and very short-sighted leaders. And unless we work hard to change this situation, Nigeria will continue to go down the drain, God forbid. And that is really why we all have to join hands as patriots, as citizens who want a united Nigeria, who want to ensure that we turn the fortunes of this country in the 2023 general elections and beyond in order to bring the kind of change that we want. We may all choose individual solutions because many young men and women are doing that. They choose individualistic solutions to explore their own potential. So they either go into criminality, trying to be very creative and innovative, but that is what I call a path to self-destruction, because many of them that go into armed robbery or go into reckless use of social media for corrupt enrichment, in the end destroy their lives. Of course, the other avenue that our young men and women increasingly are choosing is to check out of the country. But Nigeria is the only country we have. From what we see about Nigerians who have moved abroad, very small percentage of them go abroad and refuse to even entertain the thought of coming back. Substantial majority of people who go abroad in search of greener pastures still want at the end of their lives to come back home and die, which means that really we have to build this country. Otherwise, the same bad country they left would even be destroyed so that they can't come back to it, or they may come back to it and their own offsprings and children will not have the kind of aspirations that they have of a great nation that can help them satisfy their needs and aspirations. So this situation cannot continue the way it is. This bad selection criteria has to be changed. And I believe the 2023 elections provide an opportunity for us to begin to struggle to bring changes to the selection criteria so that a new selection criteria can come into effect, because that is the only way to demystify and displace and replace the kind of politics that we have in our country presently. We need, for example, a leadership recruitment criteria which pays adequate attention to competence, to capacity, to ability, to experience, to good record in previous service, to integrity, and to selflessness in governance. These are the constituent aspects of the kind of criteria that all countries that have progressed globally have used. And there is no reason why we cannot struggle to bring it about in our country. If we allow charlatans to get into power because they are supported by godfathers or ethnic warlords or by so-called money bags, then obviously they will continue to drain our resources and to run our country aground. So I argue that we need people in leadership positions in the public sector, people who believe in one Nigeria. That is absolutely necessary, because we are better off as one Nigeria than a divided ethnic enclaves from present-day Nigeria. So the kind of leaders we need are leaders who believe in one Nigeria, who will devote their time and energy to unify rather than divide our country, who will have an all-inclusive governance team if they get elected into government, a governance team that would use governance, both the institutions, the processes, and the structures, in order to address the fundamental needs and aspirations of our citizens. And not to just privatize the public treasury for their own selfish ends or for their own so-called group ends. And we need leaders who would deploy national resources to entrench the rule of law and to improve constitutionalism, and who would address the peculiar needs of our women and young men by creating jobs, by creating wealth, and by providing equality of opportunities for all without fear or favor, or without primordialism and ethnic or religious identities. Now, it may seem as if this is very difficult to bring about because of the degeneration that we see in our country. But I argue that bringing this about is a task that must be done. And although it may seem difficult, it is not impossible to do it. All we need to do, and it will become much easier to be done, if we could, all of us, both elites and young men, stop agonizing and stop procrastination and stop what I call sit-down look and get involved in the political process. It's absolutely necessary. You know, people tend to think, whether good young men or so-called good people in elite cycles, tend to think that politics is so dirty. If you get into it, you will soil your hands. So they will rather just sit and watch what is going on. And if you do sit-down look, it means you are just allowing the bad men who have dominated politics to continue to control it and to also continue to destroy it. So we really have to get involved. We have to stop just agonizing. We have to organize in a manner that we can mobilize our citizens, we can educate them to recognize the value of participation. People have to be encouraged to vote, although the voting for 2023 elections now closes. But the next thing is, it's not enough to vote, to register to vote. People have to be mobilized to come out to vote. And when they come out to vote, we must also enlighten them sufficiently long before voting day so that they do not waste their vote. Nigeria is a country with a high illiteracy rate. And in fact, from my own little experience in the Electoral Commission, INEC, many rural people waste their votes because they don't know how to cast their vote. Even by smearing the ballot paper with ink, they destroy that ballot paper, it becomes invalid. So we have to devote our attention through our community-based organizations, through our civil society organizations, through all sorts of youth and the women organizations to mobilize our citizens this time around for 2023 general election. We want better people who can reposition Nigeria. And we can only get these better people if people come out to use their conscience, to choose people who have integrity, who are selfless, who are not greedy, who have a vision of changing things in this our country in order to reposition it and to make it a great country. And I believe if we do this, we will see substantial results and benefits in 2023 in terms of the quality of the kind of people we can bring at all levels of governance, from the federal to the state to the local government levels. And of course, the more good people we are able to have elected, properly elected, then the better the governance process will be. The better they will now change what we now have as bad governance by bad people, by greedy and selfish people, into good governance that can use state resources, that can use public institutions in order to satisfy the fundamental needs and aspirations of people. What are these fundamental needs and aspirations? They relate to meeting basic needs. And the basic needs means to ensure that people's human dignity is protected, move them out of poverty, give them jobs, give them education, provide health care and social welfare schemes for them. And if you do that, you will be amazed how we will turn the potential of this country around, and how indeed we will have a very bold transition to greatness. So help us God. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I stop here.
My name is Kelvin Obunaya Maximus. I am the principal and founder of Center for Politics, Leadership and Governance. So I came about this initiative as a result of interest in educating our people about what politics and governance is, because it is education, the right political education, that will empower our people to organize themselves and take back their country. Because the consent of the people is the pure original fountain of all legitimate authority, that the government derives their power from the people, and we want the people to understand that the power belongs to them, and that leadership and politics is their business, because politics is the air we breathe, it is the water we drink, it is the food we eat, it is everything about us. So it is about enlightening the people, encouraging them to have interest in what concerns them. Therefore, there will be a lot happening, because Center for Politics, Leadership and Governance is an institution whose focus is to educate and empower the people. So there will be a lot of programs like this, and there will be a lot of education, there will be a lot of conference, there will be a lot of workshop and sensitization to educate the people, because the first point of call is speakers. They were wonderful, and it was a short notice, and they were able to respond to us, and they did very, very well. And the support we got from TAF TV and our crew was really amazing. I want to specifically thank TAF TV for their unwavering support in moving our country forward through the right news and the right education. Thank you.
Dr. Alex Otti, the gubernatorial candidate, Abia State Labour Party, was asked how he would be able to solve the sanitation issues Abia citizens face alongside.
There are much more fundamental problems. So when you get to the point of environmental sanitation, then you've solved the problem. Salaries are not being paid for upwards of 30 months. Roads are dilapidated. There's virtually nothing working. The state is so badly indebted as at the time the current administration took over May 2015. The total indebtedness of the state was about 32.5 billion naira. At the moment, it is about 190 billion naira and counting. Infrastructural decay is a major problem in every part of Abia. I believe it was last night that it rained, and took virtually the whole of Area market. If you have been in the media space today, you will find out that you find some shops floating with millions of naira worth of goods completely destroyed. So my verdict is that there has not been any effective governance going on in Abia. But to the specific question of environmental sanitation, there are two problems. The first problem you have is that the roads are not constructed. So people turn any corner that they find into a refuse dump. And then secondly, even when a few roads have been constructed, in a few months, they are just washed away because there's no drainage arrangement worked into the construction of the roads. So time was when a German company, I think a company that had a private-public partnership with the then Imo State government called Sulo, was contracted by the then governor of the old Imo State, which included the present Imo and Abia. And their job was simply environmental sanitation. They kept large bins in different parts of the state, and every morning they will come with large trucks and cart those bins away. That what Mbappe was doing at that time was solving two problems: the main problem of environmental sanitation and another problem of unemployment, because a lot of people were working in that company at that time. Those are the kind of things that I have in mind. By the time I am able to set those up, I employ the young people today who are roaming the streets, and I'll keep everywhere clean. So it's not rocket science, it's a piece of cake for me. There are more fundamental problems, like I say, but you need to understand what you have gone there to do. By that, I mean, you need to have a vision before you can even talk of the passion to implement. I don't know if you have answered your question.
So please, what do you make of the event happening today, the Congress happening today?
It is something, it is a memory to last forever, because this is a history that we are making, and for people to voluntarily come for a common goal, I think the event of today is a great one.
Okay, madam, please, what do you make of the Congress happening today?
I believe it's going to be highly educative because the Nigerian populace has to understand and know the relevance of politics of the now, because we need to educate our people to know for them to know that they are the ones that put governance into existence. Okay. Because without the persons or people, there will be no governance, there will be no leadership. So it's a good one, whereby this education is going to be important. Thank you.
Linda Lee, a past president of the Law Society of England and Wales, said that as a leader, you have to be the hope and inspiration for others to follow. You have to be the good shepherd leading your flock.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today to speak. I've been asked to speak about successful leadership, but I should say, whilst I've been a leader, I'm not in any way political. We all know what a successful leader is. We have known for generations upon generations. Religious texts, in my case, the Old Testament and the New Testament, gave countless examples of good and bad leaders. David and Solomon led their people into righteousness, but Ahab and Manasseh turned away from God and led their people into wickedness. The learning of generations is there set out for us to see. So why don't we learn from those very clear examples? Because the truth is to be a good leader is to sacrifice yourself for the good of others, to put their needs before yours. It isn't about taking what you want for you and yours, or about self-publicity, fame, or fortune. It's painful, it's difficult being a good leader. Simply put, a good leader has to understand the wants and needs of a group of people, whether a small organization or an entire country, and plot a path to deliver those wants and needs and to guide those people to their goals. It is Moses leading the people of Israel to the promised land. But being a successful leader starts a long time before you actually get the opportunity to lead. As Dr. Otti says, to lead, you must have a passion, a desire to lead, but you have to prepare, you have to be ready for leadership. I was very taken by what the lady from the floor said earlier. You have to add value, and she's right. But you can't lead if you don't have trust. So why would people trust you? Well, it's the qualities you display: integrity, being honest with strong moral principles, You must respect people, even those who do not agree with you. Put others first, but not in a paternalistic, I know best sort of way. Respond to people, listen to them, really listen to them. Everyone wants acceptance and understanding and to be heard. That is their right as a human being. Learn from them. Remember that you are fallible. You must have a willingness to admit your mistakes and to put things right. You have to be willing to be held to account. Know your own weaknesses. How do you address them? I think the best way is calling on the skills and strengths of others. You can't do it all. You must be strong, but you must also reflect on your behaviours, how to improve. If you can achieve all of these things, then you are ready for leadership. But as a leader, you have to have a clear vision, a plan, and you have to be able to communicate that plan. And more than that, not just communicate, you've got to persuade people to share your vision. They've got to want to join you on the journey, and if necessary, to fight to achieve those goals. And it's no good setting off a journey if you don't know the route. And that's what you have to do as a leader. You have to plan the route, communicate that plan, but always be prepared to modify it if you can see that other people have a better way of achieving the goal. That great leader, and one of my favourite leaders of all times, Martin Luther King, said, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase." And that was what he was great at. He could persuade people to trust him and to follow his journey and to give them faith. And that's what you have to do as a leader. But even if you plan carefully, there will be times when it's difficult and painful and when it seems that you'll never reach your objective. And that's when you need a good, strong leader. As the leader, you have to be the hope and inspiration for others to follow. You have to be the good shepherd leading his or her flock. Remember Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, and he said, "Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream." And that was his greatness. Apart from being a brilliant orator, he spoke to the people there, to each and every one of them. And when times were dark, he always had the right words to lift up the spirit, to encourage, to inspire. But you will not persuade everybody. How do you deal with dissenters? Because in any leadership role, there will always be people who want to throw bricks at you, no matter what you do, but they have to be dealt with. You must still engage and respect their views, but you must also reflect on their views. Are they right? Do you need to change your plan or even yourself, your approach? If things go wrong and it's not your fault, don't waste time telling people it's not your fault. You will be respected or hated for how well you dealt with the issue. And when things go wrong and it is your fault, don't try and hide it. Put it right, admit your errors and learn from your mistakes. As I said, leadership is painful. You have self-doubt. You cannot afford to indulge yourself by sharing that doubt. You must remain positive, not undermine the confidence of others. You have to hold the ship steady. I faced my own dark times, one of which Nabwezi will remember well. There was a time when I had to make a decision as a leader that had the potential to affect thousands of lives. And the easiest thing for me to do was to do nothing. I was warned there would be dire consequences if I took action. Everyone put pressure on me. I was threatened with the thing dearest to me. My professional reputation would be ruined. But I knew what the right thing to do was. People stood in my way. I called their bluff. I had to say and mean that I would resign very publicly and explain why. I had my way and I won, but I have to tell you it was uncomfortable. But my belief in what was right had to prevail. We all have an inner compass and we all know what is right and what is wrong. To the people of Nigeria, Dr. Otti, of course, is right. If we resign from being involved, we lose our right to complain. Choose your leaders wisely, but once you've chosen, you must all put your shoulders to the wheel, do your bit, even if it's uncomfortable. Support and help the leaders. We all have a role to play. In my darkest moments, I relied on the support of my good friends, such as the very wonderful Nabwezi Nakolo. She gave me strength and helped me face the dark times, and leaders all need people to rely on too. Be a friend, not only to those leaders you have chosen, but to support the plan, the vision, and be a friend to the people of Nigeria to help them to move forward. What can you offer? What can you do? You can be shining examples to the leaders of the future. Always act with integrity, give of your best, and never, never give up. Achieve your bold transition, not for you, but for the generations of the future. Thank you.
Nwabweze Nwokolo Ni Jaja Nwachukwu, a Commonwealth lawyer, said that it is in our best interest to vote for leaders who are committed, consistent, and have demonstrated capacity.
I'm grateful for the honor and privilege that you've conferred on me, permitting me to share my thoughts and vision for our beloved country, Nigeria. I also want to thank my friend and colleague, a very important person, a former president of the Law Society of England and Wales. The Law Society of England and Wales has more than 500,000 membership. My friend Linda is a brilliant jurist, amongst other things. And I am grateful that she has made time to be with us today. Thank you. I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the organizers of this event who have worked tirelessly to bring it to fruition. I mention in particular Chimoni Maximus Ogbonnaya, who is an author, a great discuss, political activist, organizer, and advocate, founder and convener of this organization we launched today with this commemorative conference. The Center for Politics, Leadership, and I have added this, good governance. At this juncture, may I proclaim my respectful adherence to all etiquette and protocol extended to the esteemed personalities here and for our joint interactions herein. We are witnessing a sea change in the political arena of our country, Nigeria. In the past, it was occupied by professional serial politicians. It was as if politics had been vacated by the ordinary citizens and left only for veterans of many decades who constantly recycled themselves like changelings, moving from one incarnation to another, entrenching themselves in a kind of medieval orgy and vile display of raw power and might.
John.
An example is my state, Abia State, which my brother Alex has spoken extensively about. I'm not going to bore you with the goings on there. Now we have the dawn of the Obi Bati obedient movement. We are privileged to have amongst us today, we hope, the incoming Vice President of Nigeria. Nigerians across the entirety of our country have never been so politically engaged. Many have registered to take part in the forthcoming elections in 2023. PVCs, Linda, PVCs is a card that Nigerians must obtain to enable them to cast their vote, must be collected, and INEC has issued dates for doing so, and they are in batches. Batch 1, collection is going on now in this month. It covers all registrations done between June of 2021 to January 15th of 2022. All Nigerians know the significance of that date, the 15th of January. Batch number 2 The collection is in this month that we're in, September, and it covers the registrations from the 16th of January 2022 up to June the 30th, 2022. Batch 3 is for registrations from July 2022, and it will be ready for collection in November 2022. This vital information must be cascaded across our political space. No PVC, no vote, which leads to disenfranchisement. So this is very, very important. And we're here to talk about participatory politics and democracy and how the ordinary person ensures that our elected public officers are held to account. There have been many rallies and meetings taking place in various states of Nigeria. The recent rally in Abuja drew thousands of motivated Nigerians, and despite the growing desperation of the ruling establishment, who are trying to clamp down on the people's expression of political awakening and zeal. For example, in Enugu, Katsina, and Kaduna states, where our vice president for the Labour Party hails from. Citizens' enthusiasm is being dampened. Any attempt to stifle the legitimate rights of Nigerian citizens must be challenged in our courts of law, justice, and equity. We need to make our people aware of their legal rights. The whole point about having rights is to use them. And where that right of use is denied, a legal challenge must be mounted. The citizens of Nigeria no longer want to remain passive in the democratic process. Nigerians are aware of the power of a single vote. The Nigerian electorate must remain deeply motivated now that so many are alive and awake, taking civic responsibility in both hands and wielding same for our joint benefit. Politics affects us all and in many different ways. We must all be fully engaged as active participants in the quest for democracy and good governance, which we all yearn for and which we are all working together in a collaborative way and manner to achieve. Each and every one of us has a unique part to play. And that is the wonderful quality that we each possess, our own unique contribution to the march of human progress. There is no room for cynicism, despair, or apathy. The time now is for action. There is so much that needs to be done. The list of all the contestants in the electoral process has been released by INEC. We should all familiarize ourselves with it. How can we support our chosen candidates right from ward, local council level, all the way to the top of the pyramid, the presidential contest? It is important to support not just the Obi Datti presidential ticket, but every single person standing for election that we have recognized as being competent and with the merit, energy, and capacity to serve us all. The education and information sharing must carry on without stop. Every voter must be made aware that each possesses a powerful tool which must be protected jealously, guarded, and used with wisdom. We have the example of the elections that took place in Edo and Anambra State. It can be done. People are aware. We have to go down to the grassroots, speak to people, educate, advocate. We cannot rest until the quest is achieved. It is in our own collective interest and benefit to vote for individuals who are committed and competent and have demonstrated capacity which is consistent. Nigeria is copiously blessed with such people. It is time now for the electorate to know them and put them into public service for the benefit of all the citizens of Nigeria, irrespective of geography, ethnicity, gender, religion, or any other protected characteristic. The only characteristic we want from our public officers is character. Our debt is reported to be in the region of nearly 70 trillion naira. Our public universities have been closed for nearly 8 months. Our young people all want to japa. Linda, that means leave Nigeria to better climes. Our roads and all other infrastructure are in shambles and disarray. We are unable to profit from our so-called oil wealth, which is more of a curse than a benefit. We are overwhelmed and overtaken by all manner of danger from kidnappers, terrorists, unknown gunmen, headsmen, and an assorted collection of deadly marauders who have reduced our country to a state of de facto civil war, strife, and deep unrest.